Hello everybody, welcome back to day 10 of our Getting Through the Holidays daily YouTube webcast. Welcome everybody. Today is December the 30th, at least here in the United States at transCODES time. My name is Jona bryndis, your energy coach and energy healer, at least here for these 12 days getting through the holidays. And I am welcoming you to the show here today. As always, and people are starting to get on. We have a little bit of a lag here, of a delay with YouTube. So I'm just doing a little bit of intro talk for the first couple of minutes. Let us know where you're listening from. We have a very interesting show today, just judging by the energies that are coming in, and you may be able to feel this in my energy already. There's a lot going on out there, and if you as an empath and energetically sensitive or awakening person whom I do these live shows for, if you are feeling some really strong kind of activation of I don't know, I don't want to give it a label, but there's an activation that is happening today, and this may play out a little bit as irritability, nervousness, or sort of trigger in your fighting instinct. Okay, so we talked about coping mechanisms and primary handling structures that we all have, and the fighter is one part of us. And don't get me wrong, even though I helped you to discern sort of where you can find your primary coping mechanism, that doesn't mean that you don't have the others in you as well. Today is a day of activation. So yesterday we had a day of resetting. Today is a day of the activation of your fighter instincts. And yes, hello Arizona, hello Australia, London. Oh God, I'm starting to get used to your names. That's so awesome. Thank you guys for coming here tonight. In fact, actually today I was thinking, with all the stuff that is going on right now, which I will report about here in a minute, I'm going to miss you guys after the 1st of January. We only have 3 more shows, okay? And I think today is a pivotal day. And I'm going to be talking about these collective energies that are coming in, this activation that is coming in. And then I'm going to reflect on the cryptocurrency market, as you know, based on, me being an energy worker and seeing sort of everything within this larger perspective of quantum entanglement. I actually see the cryptocurrency market as, Bitcoin and so forth, as a reflection or a mirror of some of the larger processes that are going on in the collective. So not that you need to make your own sort of life depend on what's going on in the crypto market, not this way around, but it can be very smart to actually look at certain indicators and markers to get a little bit of a feedback here from the collective. The news are not really good feedback, simply because, at least not here in the United States, because they're too manipulated. So there's a very strong power, in this news machinery here in the United States. It has created almost like this bubble of or this ecosphere, that's kind of detached from the news in the rest of the world. And I know that this may trigger a resentment or resistance in people who live in America and Canada, but those of you who live outside of this Northern American continent may actually be able to relate to what I'm saying. So I look at news from Europe, simply because that's where I'm from, and I notice a huge discrepancy here, how things are being reported and also what is being reported. I don't know. I would love to get some feedback from you on that. Just here in this chat, if you share my observation that the news overseas from the American perspective is a different kind of news than the one that is being propagated here in the States. So anyway, the only reason why I'm mentioning this is not to give fuel to conspiracy theories, because those are kind of things we have to accept. We have to accept that there's, big corporation, that there's big money, banks and so forth, manipulating the system that's more or less an outcropping of capitalism, isn't it? So propaganda and all these things, they all belong to this, all right? So it's kind of naive to think that, those who are in these controlling factions, would not try to control the news as well. So we have this interesting tension right now, or juxtaposition, as one of my transCODES colleagues, whom we will have on our show today, here after I'm done with our overview of the day, namely Cheryl Pakula, a wonderful energy worker who has a great story to share about resilience and overcoming fear, uncertainty, and doubt. She talks about this juxtaposition, and I think this is probably the most characteristic to describe the energies, not just of the day, but really of this sort of wave that we are in right now. And yes, hi to Denmark, hi to Trinidad. And yes, here Denise is commenting, I lived in Europe for a while, and yes, I noticed the difference. Hey, California. So wonderful to have you guys here. Yes, please comment, okay? And also, of course, ask. But I'm really, really excited about your comments, because, I don't just want to like do my own thing here, okay? This is not about me. I've had several energy coaching sessions today, like 8 hours today. I had a very intense energy session with a group of people who signed up for the energetic the energetic visioning intensive that we have going on. So, I'm in this, every day, and I pick up on these energies. I get messages from people. Most of the people that I work with are empaths and visionaries like yourself, and they send me emails, they give me feedback, okay? So there's a lot of sort of exchange, mutual exchange here, and I love getting this exchange from you guys as well. Yeah, so the reason why I brought this up is to show that there are, these different forces, that we are exposed to. And yesterday we talked a little bit about the physical integration of that, and how we really have to go into self-responsibility of that. And part of our self-responsibility is, really watching what we're exposing ourselves to. So for years, I have actually been recommending people to stay away from news, especially the sort of the plagative, the I don't know the English word for that, where people's stories are slaughtered, into this like, look at me, I'm the victim, and all this emotionalized, dramatized type of churning of fears. This is a really, really negative exposure, if you will. And those of you who are familiar with some of the etheric mirrors, etheric reflections of that, meaning, kind of like the mirror world, the stuff that we see in the etheric that reflects the stuff that goes on in the 3D world. So basically the difference between the energetic reality and the physical reality. Those of you who are familiar with this, by the way, this is what we're training here in this intensive right now. You know what I'm talking about. There is this constant sort of battle of resonances, okay? Like Star Wars, puts it, like the Force, there's the sort of the positive side of the Force, and there's the negative side of the Force. I actually prefer to call it power. I actually prefer to call it sort of the universal divine Wi-Fi, that we can link into. And since we are a part of that, we can all receive on this frequency. It's just that when we listen to news, or when we listen to all these fear stories and victim stories, and also right now, of course, a lot of these revealing of truths, perpetrator stories, is that we get tempted into our own victim story. We get tempted into our own fear, into our own uncertainty, into our own doubt. And if you're asking me really what the biggest enemy is, it's not the government, it's not the corporations. Those people are just like really the agents of all of that, the outer layers. What the real enemy is, this temptation that we have inside of us that is partially based on our nervous system. We are programmed as humans to learn through danger, learn through pain, learn through fear. Okay, this is very important to understand. That's a big part of our primary survival mechanism. Okay, and so it is not, a surprise that our ego will contextualize everything as sort of victim perpetrator, attack defense. And that's why, I call this the enemy. It's not the ego itself. It's our programming. And of course, the stuff that's being propagated through the collective, which, like marketing, commercials, FUDs, messages that transport fear, uncertainty, and doubts. They play into our ego's fear. All right. And that's the enemy. So it's not the people who do it. They're just really the marionettes of their own fear. It is us, buying into this. And that's where, the self-responsibility comes in. It is our job to realize that we have a choice and we don't need to buy into this. That's what I'm asking you to do today, to get through this activation, which is actually kind of cool. Feels very invigorating, at least for sort of fighter types like myself, right? I'm like, yeah, let's go get him. But of course, that is also just a coping mechanism. And so I have to tone this down a little bit and have to see, okay, am I going into this sort of aggressive defensive stance here? And am I buying into some of the fear, even if, for me personally, it doesn't really mean that I feel powerless, but it means that, I'm reacting to something and not responding. So the biggest training here that I'm suggesting to you, and also the energy tip for today, is to use discernment. All right, to take this time out. We talked about this. We talked about resetting. We talked about shifting. We talked about clearing. We talked about all these different things that you can do. All right, this is you as as owning your own energy. Can do all these things no matter what situation you're in, no matter how difficult your story is. And by claiming this right, this sovereignty, as I call this, to decide, whether you're going to go for something or not, based on whether this is conducive for your energy or whether this is pulling you into sort of like more negative type of realms. And the same, of course, counts for people and places. So you are not the victim of what happens, around you. Things do not happen to you. All right. Sure, it looks like that. And just before the session here, I burned our dinner because I had to hurry up. And of course, it looks like, yes, that just, why does this happen? Why just right now? Why? It always happens when I'm in a stress situation. Of course, at first, it feels like things are happening to me at the wrong moment, but that's just really my ego resisting reality. Okay, the reality is I burned the food, because I wasn't fully present. I was in my thoughts. I was already in, our show here, and I was sort of half in, half out. And besides discernment, which is more or less the result of my actual energy tip, which is be present. Be present, pay attention to where your energy goes. Be in the moment. Don't get caught in the past, all your suffering in the past, all the stories that sort of rehash and rewind and replay, that remind you of the pain of the past. Don't go too much in the future, because the future comes with, this mentalization, this expectation, the need to control. It triggers all kinds of ego coping mechanisms. If you can manage to be in the present, and we've talked about this here in these past couple of days, and there's many different ways to do this, but mostly calming down your emotions and your mental, your thinking activity. But if you can slow down just enough to be fully present in the moment, that's when you can make choices that are based on truths, that are based on your inner discernment. And in those moments you will recognize that there is a deeper purpose in things. Okay, so for me, burning my family's food here and wanting to go into anger and wanting to go into blaming and all that, was a big lesson, a learning experience, as I call it. And that was, these kind of things happen when I'm not fully present. All right. And I apologized with my family. I said, I'm so sorry. I'm wrapped up with, what I'm doing. And they understood this. And we salvaged everything. And we had a wonderful dinner. Yeah. So we can de-escalate, and we can, neutralize these things as they arise. Okay, so that for the theme of the day. So activation, and just pay attention, be present, but pay attention to not go into your fighter mode too much and resist too much. Okay, always stay, in that moment and watch where your energy is going, and then make an educated choice. Make a choice based on what is conducive for you and what isn't. As far as the crypto market is concerned, there's a big bloodbath going on right now. Bankster's Inferno, as one of the YouTubers I follow called it. And this, I talked about Ripple yesterday, and this is kind of like what's happening. So there's this actually happens in the stock market every year. It's not unusual, that people will cash in and move out at the last days of the year, because this is sort of where they have their statistics, especially fund managers and so forth. They have to show good numbers. So this is actually in a professional stock market trading environment, this is a common phenomenon. In the cryptocurrencies, it's not. Okay, here something is going on that was not expected, and that is that that there's a lot of FUD, a lot of, news that promote this fear and uncertainty that would manipulate the crypto market, and that would scare people to the point where they sell low. And this here again is exactly what is happening right now. So if you have been in the crypto market for a while, you already know this. These kind of things happen from time to time, and they equalize relatively quickly. If there's any haters out there in regards to crypto, or see, told you so, it's a bubble. No, you have no idea. This cannot be stopped. This is not a matter of belief. Okay? This is just like the internet couldn't be stopped. And trust me, I was there. I had a TV show showing people how to use hardware, how to use software, how to use PCs. That was in the early 80s, in the mid 80s. And people would hate, the idea that computers are going to destroy the world. And then a couple of years later, the same with the internet. I've gone through these cycles many, many times. And I've gone through the same thing with energy work as well. Guys, this is not woo-woo. This is not, these things are all real. Okay. And whenever, things come in that evolve, or that help the collective to evolve. And this is, this is happening regardless of the technology, this whole wave of awakening people. This is not just some mental concept that is going on there. This is real, guys. You can't stop this anymore. People are evolving, whether they have the tools or not. So will this all be leading to kumbaya and all of us living together in love and happiness? No, of course not. It will lead to a lot of chaos, and it will lead to a lot of uncertainty in people because they're not aware of their energetic reality, and their 3D, their false self reality is clashing with the things that they're starting to perceive and feel and sense. Do you know what this will do to the entire collective? That's why I'm talking about energy workers need to go forward, and the crypto market needs to be supported because those are things that help our collective to evolve. With, of course, the pain of growing, with the birthing pain, with all the good in the ugly, the good in the bad and the ugly. So those of you who've been in the crypto market here for a little bit, even, if it's only been since the beginning of the year, you've gone through this a few times and you understand that. It's like watching your toddlers grow, and there's a lot of pain and a lot of learning. But the big thing is really to sit back and to observe and really see it for what it is. Those are learning experiences. And as long as you hodl, as long as you don't lose your nerves and sell off, it's like, how many of you have kids and have had that thought, wanting to sell their kids in those really low moments? But you don't sell your kids, of course not. And this may be a little far stretch for some of you, but I would recommend you to handle your cryptos or to treat your cryptos the same way. This is your future, guys. All right, whether you believe in it or not. Don't buy into the FUD. That's just like anything else out there, like, oh, you shouldn't. I mean, do you know what they said 100 years ago? It was only 100 years ago that when cars are starting to hit the market, like vehicles, cars, that anything above 6 miles an hour will rip the brain out of your head. I mean, those were scientific articles trying to prove, that the car is going to destroy humanity. Yes, FUDs. Okay, I'm looking at your comments here while I want Cheryl to get ready. Cheryl, I'm going to call you here in 1 minute. Yes, people. Seriously, people talk about selling their kids on Facebook. Oh my God, I hope they're just joking. But this is from if you begin to see the larger perspective and really work on this response ability, then of course that these things are just the things that come sort of in that heat of the moment, in that activation of your defense mechanisms, your fight or your flight, or your freeze. Okay, so don't buy into this. And Cheryl, I'm going to call you now. I'm going to put a picture up there as soon as we have the connection going. And don't forget to turn your YouTube live to mute that so that you don't have the echo. Hey Cheryl, can you hear me?
I can.
Hello, Cheryl Pakula, energy worker and fellow journeyer, a woman that has gone through her journey, her life, with tons of resistances, with tons of story worth events, and who came here today to share some of her wisdom with you guys and what has helped her in, overcoming fear and uncertainty and doubt. Welcome, Cheryl. Thank you so much for being of service to all of us here today and for offering, this sharing.
Very cool. Thanks for having me. My last name is Pakula.
Oh, well,
not
that's
like Dracula.
All right, I apologize for this.
That's fine.
What's the sort of root of Pakula? Do you know, like the ethnic root of
That's
that?
German, but it's not my birth name. It was a husband name. I was just too
Okay.
lazy to change it up.
Well, if it is German, then the pronunciation would Pakula. Yeah, Pakula. No, Pakula. Yeah, that's I think where I got this from. So yeah, but anyway, we are honoring the ways your name is pronounced. So Cheryl Pakula, and thank you for coming. How are you today? I mean, you are just like so many people that work with me, energetically sensitive. You've been in the energy session today that I've mentioned as a co-facilitator. How do you perceive the energies coming in today?
Today was a cool day. We did a session last night, the first of the three sessions, and there was, as you mentioned earlier, I love that word juxtaposition, but there was such a cool juxtaposition between last night's and this afternoon's. It was pretty cool. I've got quite a lag on my Facebook, so I can't tell if I'm in real time with you or not.
Yes, I think we all do. I think it's just that
Okay.
it's just the internet being really full right now, with
Okay.
people.
Good, yeah, because or the YouTube and the Skype aren't jiving, so I'm thinking that I'm having a stroke.
Yeah, so don't look at the live
No.
picture, just focus on the
Right.
voice. Yeah, because that is confusing. So Cheryl, you came here today, sort of as someone who wants to send out an empowering message. I love your story simply because it has so many different facets, so many different parts, so many different aspects to it. And I'm just like really handing the microphone over to you, but I want you to definitely end up in also mentioning how you are dealing your fears, your uncertainty, and all that kind of stuff with the cryptos, because this is, I think, your latest endeavor, is it not?
Yes, absolutely.
And I love the way you're approaching this. So here is the microphone. Whoops, this way to you. Let us know what's sort of the biggest. I would say wisdom that you've learned in your life from all the things, that you have gone through as a mother, as a businesswoman, as a awakening soul, as a daughter, as, in all your different capacities, so to speak. What's the wisdom that you want to share with us when it comes to overcoming fears?
I was reflecting on this, Jona, because we had talked, and I knew that this was the direction we were going to head with this. I'm going to laugh at my naivete, because I'm in this body and in this life, and I only have me to really reflect upon, and I don't really spend a whole lot of time thinking about what somebody else is doing. But when you ask me that question, I look 56 years into it, going, holy shit, this has been quite a journey. Like, wow. And when I was thinking today, what is the message? Like, where is the underlying fear coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to say that it's the fear of being free. And because I was trying to tie it into
the fear of being what? Sorry?
Free.
Oh, okay.
Free. As I tie it in with the crypto world, the whole plan behind the crypto movement, if you will, is the decentralization, which equates into no one telling you what to do, no one telling you how to do it, those kind of things. And so as I was in reflection, I'm going, wow, there's a lot of power in not having anyone tell you what to do or how to do it, or which has been part of the whole game to begin with, is to figure out how to do it, because that's the challenge. So I'm free of someone telling me what to do with my money/life. Now I've been free of someone telling me what to do with my life for many, many years, just because I have an interesting history in that regard. But I was trying to figure out, where does the fear come from? You know, the fear of this whole crypto thing, the learning curve, the fear of loss, the fear of not being smart enough to figure this out, the fear of, oh, just pick 100 fears. And I boiled it all down, and it's the freedom. It's the, I am the safety net now, right? There is no, I don't know, banking industry or whatever, because I'm not a follower of the banks. I don't really believe in banking. Really not a fan of government. I don't like having to do what other people tell me to do. Yeah, that's it. So the fear of being free and then affirming my abundance at the same time. Those are two really powerful realizations that I came with today, because the freedom that I have allows me the abundance, and the abundance I have allows me the freedom. So it's really cool to see that.
So, Cheryl, what I hear you say, okay, and this is right along those lines, you know, how we discuss and how we, work here at transCODES within the self-healing community. What I hear you say is that underneath all the story, underneath all the coping, underneath all, you know, those sort of cool, you know, ego accomplishments, all right, whenever there's something new, you can feel the underlying fear come up again, and it's not so much the outer stuff anymore, but it's a much deeper type of fear, and that is basically, this is what I hear you say, breaking free from this collective programming, you know, that there's always got to be somebody telling you what to do. And even if it is not, you know, even if this is not something that you like, but at least then you have somebody to blame it on, right?
Yes, yes.
So basically what I hear you say is that deep core fear is really coming from the place of self-responsibility. Because if you are fully self-responsible for all, you know, or if you are like in total control, like not control, but you know what I mean, if you have that freedom to do whatever it is that you want to, then you are also the one that is accountable, right? And that kind of sucks. The ego does not like that. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that all insecurity comes from the fear of collapse. Yeah. You know, and if I take that one step farther, that's the collapse of ego. Am I really afraid of that? Well, maybe it's because of the programming that's always been there about that the ego is in charge of the show. And now, as I work to reprogram my entire being to go back to purity, to the nothingness, the beauty of nothingness, it's like, holy shit. And so these things just came to me today as I was following my way through what's at the basis of this. Because the crypto stuff is nothing, it's everything new to me, but nothing new to me. Because anytime I head into a new adventure, I'm very determined, and if I set my mind to it, it's happening. I'm just going to do it, and I will push through the fear, be it a good thing or not a good thing, I don't know. But I go through so many coping mechanisms in the interim, and fortunately for me, Jona, you've been here as in my freakouts, and it's been quite a journey of understanding that I'm good enough, smart enough, have enough, all the things I've been working on for many, many years. This has brought them all up again. And I figured it out, that it's that fear that drives it. That fear of being free. About holy shit. It's not like you're walking up to an instant teller machine and you're like just tapping in things and magic happens. This is figure it out. Get in there.
So really what this leads to, Cheryl, if I hear this right, where you're going with this, is like a whole sort of reframing and recontextualization of all our stories, right? All this whole sort of victim and perpetrator type of thing, right? If it is me who's actually afraid of being free, well, who's the victim? Who's the perpetrator? You know, and not to diminish, you know, people's stories, you know, that, you know, like, I want to make this clear that everybody understands this, that Cheryl, and you're free to share whichever part you'd like, but Cheryl as well as myself, we come from, a long history of abuse and, all kinds of stories that would make very, very great victim stories. Okay, so we are not just survivors, okay? The whole point here is to get you guys activated to go into this thriver mode. It's not enough to just survive your story. You didn't come here into this world to survive your life. You came here to thrive. Okay. And this is why Cheryl is here, because she's got a really, really powerful way of facing all of that. All right. And Cheryl, you may disagree with this at times, but that's only because you have a fighter mechanism, as primary cop out, so you go into this total resistance. That's just how you're wired. Okay. And knowingness about yourself, this is something that you found out here over the course of doing this self-healing work with yourself and so forth, and that helps to accept that, yes, this is where I'm first going to go. And this can be negative, but this can also provide me with the energy, to change, to do something, So when what I heard you say here, with this recontextualization of victimhood, and maybe, if you want to just sort of mention the several aspects in your life that you had to deal with, very similar to my story, but all these things that could have held you back in your life and that end up not. All right. What are some of these aspects, Cheryl? Like single mom, stuff like that.
Yes, single mom, 2 kids, alcoholic husband. Needed to come up with the finances to pull this off myself, working 3 jobs, that story. Okay. Growing up in a house where there was a certain amount of disruption and chaos and mental illness and passive aggressiveness and codependency, and I have 3 siblings. We're all from different planets, none of us really see the world in the same light. Anyway, probably not much different than a lot of other people, but again, as a lot of us talk who are energy sensitives, always thought that I landed here by accident because I never fit in, and because I'm a big believer in having past life experiences, and I think I came in kicking and screaming, and that didn't go over so well. So there was quite a bit of pushback in my house, and so I felt I didn't belong. It's not okay to be a girl. You don't belong here. You're not smart enough. You're not this. You're not that. Da, 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 da. So lots of years in counseling, 22 years in Al-Anon, numerous changes in my life. Got married a couple of times, those kind of things. The kids are from the same father. That made life easier, but the story is sort of textbook in terms of lost individual plowing through the world. And then in my 20s, I came across the term of metaphysics, and that was the beginning. And I have been in quest ever since. I have done a few things with my personal life. I've taken a few different academic studies and piddled in with, well, I don't want to do that. So I moved on to the next thing. And I often have said that the thing that I have done the longest and the most consistent and the best job at is having my kids and raising them. And they're 29 and 27 now, and I did that real well. And somehow in the midst of all of my never knowing where I fit in and continuously changing and revolving and evolving at the same time, I'm an awesome mom. So I pulled that one off. Anyway, so it's interesting to recognize that my life was organized chaos. Mm-hmm. I did it all by myself, basically, without any help, really. And I made it to this part, and I look back and I go, holy shit. I mean, that was an incredible ride. So in each of those little threads that all weaved into this tapestry, I was learning some really cool stuff. I just didn't recognize how cool it was until I got through it. Because a lot of it left me in the fetal position on the floor, wondering what I was going to do. And those included suicidal thoughts that started from the age of 14 and went on and off for a few years after that. But it didn't do it, so that's cool.
So how did you get through it, Cheryl? How did you get through your story? And I love that you say that all, you know, that today, you know, since you've worked on reframing and recontextualizing all that, you can see how these were all like really cool learning experiences. But in that moment of powerlessness, in that moment of, you know, total desperation, what carried you through, Cheryl?
You know, if I go to the lowest of the low, and that would be the suicidal thoughts, I don't think I had enough courage to do it. If I could be that blunt about it, if I would have been in a better frame of mind, I might have been able to come up with a plan. So that I think that shows you how low I was. I was not functioning, but. I think I would have to say, Jona, that there's an inner drive, and now being well into my reframing process in terms of all the meditation and the work and the self-improvement and the excavating of soul, as I like to call it, I recognize I recognize that I came in like this for a reason, and I don't carry, well, rarely do I carry the victimization pattern anymore. Oh, such a good victim. I had really good
Yeah, I know. I loved it too when I could just blame everybody and just complain all day.
Well,
but it doesn't work
That's
anymore.
Where the crypto fear, right? There's nobody to blame.
Yeah.
I'm the one fixing things. But yeah, when you talked about, like, let's talk about reframing of victim and perpetrator. I could sing that song for a long time because, and I like to throw rescuer in there as well. But the victim, I'm so used to victimizing myself and others, and I'm so used to being the offender, the offensive one, the perpetrator of myself and others. So to catch that midstream, and I think when you ask about how did I pull my socks up, I think at that point, I just recognized that I didn't want to be that much of a victim to it. And I would literally do that saying, get up, dust yourself off, and move forward.
I think, I think, Cheryl, what actually helped you with this was, a good connection with your anger. If I feel into your, this is a reframing of anger too. We talked about repressed anger here, I think on the second day, I don't remember, or fourth day. If this is something I can relate to. I know not everybody does, but when I get really, really low, I get mad. and it's not, I'm not like projecting it onto anybody. I'm just like, fuck it. I'm not gonna let this happen. I did not come here, to be defeated, and that energy, it can also come in as a very soft energy, right? I mean, and you and I, we are on this journey together, and we have many of these moments where, we have energy sessions or just conversations where we can feel, this sort of divine Wi-Fi, this universal field, permeating through us, and all of a sudden, all these things that were seemingly so bad or so, really, traumatizing, make sense. And we see the bigger picture and the purpose in all of that. All right. So this is what most people lack, is seeing, the picture. This last week we've worked a lot on devotion, how we can turn determination into devotion. And sorry for sidelining here a little bit, but remember yesterday how I talked about how I felt like really low, sleep deprived, and why am I even doing this, and blah 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 blah. These are the moments where you need to know why you're doing things. You need to know what it is in you, what part it is in you, because it's a prompting. For most of us, it's a prompting from our true self, from our higher self to do something, even though it's hard sometimes, even though it's arduous sometimes. Yes, even though we have to face things that pull us out of our comfort zone. And like you said, that fear of losing freedom, that's only the illusionary freedom, or the fear of freedom, say. That's an illusionary freedom that we hang on to, the status quo that we have only because our ego, feels better and with the stuff that's more familiar. So most of us perceive their lives as struggle because, not that it's their fault, I'm trying to reframe this whole idea of causation and blaming here. Not because it's their own fault, because their ego prefers what they're familiar with. Your ego will always pull you into situations and choices that, no matter how dysfunctional, no matter how self-destructive sometimes they are, it will give you the illusion that you are in control. And that is what we need to learn to discern. So this reframing, which of course is first sort of a mental reframing, or spiritual, sort of conceptual reframing, at some point of our journey, and Cheryl is a witnesser of this, and so am I, and all these other people that came on this show here that agreed, to speak to you in these days, where you may go low, to send that message. There is more there. There is more, guys. This can carry you through if you listen to this prompting. It doesn't matter how painful your story is. It's not that, not to diminish some of the stories, but it's if you buy into your story, that's when you're buying into your ego. And then things do not make sense. Then life...
Sometimes, like you were just saying, sometimes in life things don't make sense. And generally speaking, I would be quite analytical and like to know plan A leads to plan B leads to plan C.
Just a tad.
Yes, it's just the universe laughing. But as I get older, and I got to tell you, the 50s are way better than some of the other ages because I got that much more life lessons and teachings behind me. But to understand, and it's such a cheesy thing, I gotta say it anyway, but when one door closes, another one opens. Yeah. More like when one door closes, the whole universe opens. And these really cool things, and I've heard you say this before too, Jona, that if you would have had to predict 10 years ago or 20 years ago where you would be today, it'd be like, what? How did that happen? And that's exactly what's happened to me. And I am in awe of how cool my higher self is, that got all these really cool things on the menu that I didn't even know were there. And all I have to go is, which one shall I go to? Yeah. And one thing has been unfolding after another, and I really don't do too much planning ahead anymore. I just am living in the day. Yeah. Again, until the crypto thing came, because then now I'm just learning a whole bunch of new stuff about myself. So that takes a little bit of planning. But I'm allowing it to unfold as it is. And I always thought that was a cheesy thing when unicorn people used to say that kind of stuff. And I would go, what? But it's really true. And no, you're not a unicorn person. But to just allow it to be. And so yesterday, when we were in the Navigating Inner Worlds transmission, there's a really sweet spot when I can go quiet enough and allow it to be, and it is a spot of nothingness. It is the 0 point. It is totally in touch with all that is, a cool feeling that's a nice reference place. And that kind of is a mirror of what's happening in my life. I'm in the nothingness place. That's the most beautiful place to be.
And that's normally, that's normally something that scares our ego, right? Nothingness does not mean like lack, does not mean deprivation. No.
Au contraire.
So this is the wisdom really that you've come up with, right? Is that when you allow yourself to voluntarily go there, what happens, Cheryl?
oh, it's beautiful, it's peaceful, and my higher self knows what's next. And it's just like, it's like putting the paddle down. I'm not paddling against the current anymore. I just am, and I'm allowing, and I'm open. And not to say that I don't bibble back and forth, because I certainly do. I can catch that nonsense way quicker, and then I can pick the lesson out of it faster too. But it's so much freedom. There's freedom, and that is. Remember at the beginning I was talking about the fear of being free. Mm-hmm. Well, this is a different kind of free, and it's freedom, and there's no fear there. That is yes. Just everything that ever was, and no story attached to it.
And I like, how you bring this deeper aspect in, because this is usually like heavy sort of metaphysical, spiritual woo-woo talk, and yet hearing this from you, in this way. The resilient mother, businesswoman, and crypto conqueror that you are, it really brings a very positive and empowering message across. Thank you for that, Cheryl. Now, we only have a few more minutes left, and I want to ask you, so for entertainment purposes, how is your crypto journey doing? How did this all come about?
Sorry, how was what?
Your crypto journey. How did all this come about? How? And I mean, you mentioned your fears, but I mean, you don't need to share details here as far as things that that you're trading or whatever. But tell us just in a nutshell what your journey looked like from to within what type of time frame.
Well, I think I started in August, and I just took an online Udemy course to try to understand what the hell they were talking about, because I was blind to it. But I'd heard about Bitcoins like 10, 12 years ago when they were like nothing, and I thought, oh, but I don't know. I guess I just didn't push hard enough to figure out how to make that happen. And then, so in August, I thought, well, I'm just going to start doing it. And I started with that, and I talked to you about certain things and just took baby steps. And as I think about the power of my thoughts and the power of getting in the flow, one thing I recognized about, because I did have a business at one point, I bought a franchise in something, and oh no, there was a lesson in losing your ass. But anyway, I bounced back and still raised 2 kids with 3 jobs. But anyway, the flow comes getting in the flow and let the universe take it over. But it also requires effort. It doesn't need to be struggle, just effort. So every day I do one more little thing. At the front end, I spent hours trying to figure out what was going on and how to make
And I mean, it starts with the wallet, right? And then with the exchange, and then with the hardware wallet. And then...
and I still have an issue with one of the exchanges. I got some crypto stuck up in some contract somewhere, but I'm not freaking out about it anymore. And I mean, I still have a healthy level of concern, but I'm not, I don't lose sleep. And I gotta tell you, Jona, I was dreaming cryptos every damn night, waking up in the morning, cryptos. Wasn't getting any sleep, was just losing my shit. Yeah, and
that's
again,
not good.
It's that fear. Yeah. The fear, and I don't want to be there. This is supposed to be, what's the word, empowering, right? The whole point of this movement of cryptos is to be empowered, to have the freedom so that you're free, you make your own decisions and those kind of things. So to be anything other than that was so working against it, just like every other time in my life when I was pushing against being in flow and watching what was happening. So to tell you where it's at today, I don't really know, because I haven't figured out how to use that ledger thing. I have no idea where I'm at, but I got to figure that out too.
Okay. Yeah, so, but can you give some of the concerned listeners a little bit of a heads up here in regards to how to maintain sanity? So first of all, I want to point out that this is not a matter, that investing in cryptos has nothing to do with the volume of money that you have available. Okay.
No. Not at all.
That can be done with $50, with $10. It doesn't matter. There is no limitation. Everything is scalable. This is one of the big power things of that. There is a lot of scares right now and a lot of insecurities around the functionality of these wallets and exchanges simply due to the amount of people like streaming into this. So yeah, this is Wild West, but it is nothing that you need to like, like have sleepless nights over. This is not worth it. Okay. I don't know if any one of you actually realize that your PayPal account is nothing but a software wallet. And none of you have ever had a sleepless night over whether your funds on PayPal are going to be there tomorrow or not. Okay. Right. So just to take this down a notch. All right. Then, learning is something that everybody can do. And I've said this on many occasions. We have to face the fact that the world is changing. And we have to it's not only about gathering information that empowers you to face things. So, because you said it, Cheryl, that there's, when it comes to fears, there's always something beyond that, and that is usually the unknown, and the fear of not being in control, and that is what you're sensing when you say freedom, because freedom, in for you or in many of us, kind of means what? Freedom? That means there's no control. That's something I need to be worried about. Okay. But educating ourselves brings in knowingness, and knowingness brings in empowerment, and it helps us to counteract and to transcend, our fears. All right, so that is that.
And I would add, Jona, that because I am analytical and because I am of a fighter, it was really important for me to get right in there and roll in the mud and understand. And I just went to information overload, and it was really not necessary to do that. I mean, I was just subscribing to all these.
I had to stop you a few times.
Yeah, I was getting so freaked out with needing to know shit that I'll never understand, right. And I was right in there. That is so not necessary.
And also,
we talked about the expense of doing this because of fees and whatnot. But I would still say to anybody to go on Coinbase, it's a little pricey, but it's easy, and you click, and you're done, and it's really,
I agree.
There's an empowerment that comes with that, and I can't even really find the right words to say how much the crypto has opened me up, because I made it through the fear of just starting, and the other fear was self-inflicted because I just overindulged, but.
Well, and also, to be entirely honest, and I think this is besides the greed and besides the fear, what a lot of people are facing in the crypto market, there was the, oh my God, I've already lost the train, and once we've got past that, oh my God, I'm too late. If I don't do this trade right now, I'm never going to, of course, this is all greed oriented as well, but it has to do with our ego's fear, of missing out. So we got to withstand that too. And into this category also fall all these like hunting for the next best ICO, the trade of the day, how many percentage how much percentage did you did? I did 82%. Oh, you did only 81% today? Oh, that, to get out of that. That's the masculine energy, guys. That's the old paradigm. That's what brings the whole thing to the fall. We need to go.
I do want to add one more thing, Jona. Sorry for interrupting, but this was a big piece for me. And again, I'm going to talk about things I've learned about myself that I believe that I've pulled forward into this life. And again, today, with the intent of figuring out why the fear of the cryptos, because I can see there was something underlying there.
Yeah.
And I've always felt that I am everything. I am the opposite side of the coin of everything that I am. I am the lover. I am the beloved. I am, you pick it, and I'm both of those. I am the angry. I am the calm. I am the victim. I'm the persecutor. Whatever. But I recognize that I brought forward, just based on the stories that I've told you about my life, because I have been conned, I have been swindled, I've been ripped off, I've been betrayed in this particular lifetime, through finances, through men, through just relationships, just
business ideas,
there. Business, yes, and I recognize that I brought that to you. I am in this to learn that, because I have a real clear picture of, at some level, that I have been the swindle, or the swindler, the conner, the betrayer. I am all of that, be it from before or be it now. And so that fear of, I'm going to get conned, I'm going to get swindled, I'm going to get betrayed in crypto, it's just setting myself up through that fear. I'm not sure if I'm coming across, but it's all tied in together. And when I figured that out, a light bulb went on and I went, whoa, no wonder why I'm in fear. I got to dump that. I got to acknowledge that it's there and just change the energy of it. Because this is all about energy. It's all about...
Right. It's not about fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's not your own fault, that you brought this on. No, it's not about that. It's about what we align ourselves to.
Exactly. The power of my thoughts, the power of my feelings.
And, Cheryl, we have to come to an end now. And by the way, Happy New Year in New Zealand. Happy 2018. Buckle up. Buckle up. It's not going to be an easy ride. I'm telling you this now. But yes, Cheryl, this is what this is all about. Okay. Everything that we align to in this very moment is what determines our future. So our future is really just a combination of all these past moments, these past, times when, we put out a thought, put out an emotion. And if you can learn to reframe, your life in this sort of retrocausal way, that, everything that happens to you tomorrow is a consequence of how your energy is aligned today, then you will also understand that your past is just really a matter of alignment. And that's why you can heal things in the past, because you can realign how you feel about your past, just like what you taught us here today, Cheryl. Looking back at your past, looking at all these stories, the cons and the victim stories and all that, and recognizing it for what it is, but also really taking on, I kind of set myself up for this, not consciously. I mean, who wants to, be ripped off? Who wants to be raped? Who wants to be, all these kind of things, right? This is not something... I was just making that up, like things that we all could have sort of perceive as our victim stories or traumas, nobody wants that. But it is the energy that, our energy that, can make us look at, our future with a fear of that. And as we are aligning to the fear of something, we are pulling it in. It is not our fault. It is how we are manipulated and how we are controlled to think. And, awakening is really, that blue pill. This is all about breaking through this collective programming on all levels. All right, so the spiritual journey here is much more than just, sitting cross-legged and doing yoga and being a vegetarian. It has nothing to do with these props. Nothing. It has to do with you.
I did that for 5 years. It didn't help.
How did that go?
I can't even look at a bean now.
I'm pretty sure you were a professional yogaist. No, I'm not making fun of yoga. I think yoga is a cool modality, okay? But it's not, if it's used as a prop, then it's just, like everything else, an externalization. This journey is about taking, self-responsibility in every moment. And it is what we think, it is what we feel, it is what, we put out there, what we do. It's not just what you see on the outside. I don't care what you do on the outside. I feel your energies, okay? And I teach you how to feel your own energies so that you can be more responsible with your energies. Because one of the biggest issues that we have as energetically sensitives here in a world that is still sort of dominated by people who don't want to connect with that part is that we feel like outsiders. This is changing, and actually today, and so wonderful, to start the new year with this kind of thought. But today I read an article and there was a person, Cliff High, who said, the normies. And for the first time, I'm like, yes, instead of us being the woo-woo people, they are the normies. Does that make sense? You know, he labeled the people who are not really part of that sort of awakening process. Normies. Okay, so kind of like as a, you know, as a nickname for people who are not awakening yet. And I don't mean this in a degrading or any kind of superior way. It was empowering for me, and you know, hopefully for everyone who has gone through this empath story, you know, like where we never felt like we belonged or fitted in. You know, this is coming to an end now. Okay, so we are becoming a faction here. We're becoming the, you know, a representation of our population, and this is why I'm so happy, you know, to be able to facilitate this here, to Cheryl, with people like you coming forward. You don't have an energy work or energy healing business, you know. You've learned how to become an energy healer, but not necessarily to be, you know, the healer on the corner of your street. You know, and you know that these things have to unfold for each of us, how we are incorporating this, you know, and you may end up incorporating this in a business idea. I've seen many people do this, you know, like business, not necessarily. There's many ways to help people also to discern, you know, through energy work, you know, business ideas or business partners. You know, maybe you become a professional a business contract discerner, you know, something like this. Those are all kind of new job descriptions that are emerging through integrating energetic sensitivity into our 3D lives. Yes.
Again, Jona, that isn't even an issue. I'm just in the canoe and I don't touch the paddles, and if it's in the cards, it'll just show up. It's really a non-issue. I have a private business now that I work with my clients every day, and just doing regular contact with them is often enough. I feel shifts in them all the time, so it's pretty cool.
Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us here today, for this empowering message and your super cool attitude about cryptos. I love it. I hope our audience loved it too. Guys, smash the like button, you know, subscribe to the YouTube channel, come to transCODES. There's lots of free sessions there. You know, maybe consider being part of the Sacred Self-Healing community. We have 2 more days of our New Year's special where you get the whole year membership discounted, and yeah, or if you are in for the full Monty, then maybe look at our Heart Warrior program. We only have 2 spots left.
Oh, I'm going to tell you, if you are thinking about taking a crash course, that Heart Warrior program, I've been in it. I started it a year ago. Actually, I was just thinking this is the anniversary month, and if anybody's sitting on the fence, do it. It's fabulous.
Okay, this was not rehearsed. I'm just putting this out. So everybody, thank you so much. And I think Australia and Japan, they're next in celebrating the new year. So guys, go for it. Have a wonderful transition. Thank you for coming here tonight. Thank you, Cheryl. And I see you here tomorrow with another fantastic and empowering guest. Cindy McKee-Cap is going to be with us. And I cannot say yet what we're going to talk about. This is all in the unfoldment of the energies tomorrow. But I'm looking forward to having Cindy on this show. All right. Thank you. 7 p.m.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.